All right, welcome to today's VCast, and we have an incredible guest for you today, Mr. Jason Stella himself, the Iceman. And the reason why they call him the Iceman, because he has cold water running through his veins because of cold water immersion and cold plunging. This is like the grand master. If you were looking for somebody and you wanted to learn something about cold plunging and cold water immersion, this would be the guy. He's got so much incredible experience. But today, hang in there now, you're going to be blindsided about all the information he's going to share with you and the things you thought you knew and believed that you should be choosing when it comes to getting a cold plunge. Well, this guy's going to answer a lot of secrets today you're going to learn that no other company's going to tell you. So that's what makes this appointment and this interview so critical for you today. So whether you're picking one for a commercial or for home, here's the information you're going to need to make the best decision, because here's what's going to happen. If you don't have a guy like Jason Stella, you don't have a company like Mystic River, what's going to end up happening? Chiller's going to go out. Filter's going to go this. You're going to have so many problems constantly that if you have members, they're going to be quitting and leaving. They're going to be frustrated. If you own one and put it in your house, constantly going to have the same problems. You're going to spend more to try and get the right thing the first time than you would be if you try and get all these other cheaper alternatives that are out there. So without further ado, let's turn it over to the Iceman, Jason Stella. Take it, brother.
Thanks, V-Man. How do I'm here, baby. I'm here to try to educate people on what's happening, my experiences. You know, I've been cold plunging for 25 years since college, and then started doing it on my own. I'm just pissed that I didn't come up with the idea to put it into a tub a lot sooner. But, you know, everything happens for a reason. I've always been on that wellness side and trying to, you know, live longer, feel better. You know, it's not as...
And it looks like you are.
Yeah,
it looks like it's working, though.
It's working. It's working. Yeah, man. You know, the biggest... Hey, yeah, go ahead.
So let's dive in. Let's dive into cold plunge and come up with a list of questions here of pain points that could cost people a lot of money and, hey, make it very inconvenient. They could lose customers. And even if you purchase one of these for your home, that's going to be a constant aggravation that people could be resolved after hearing from you today. Let's start with what you believe is one of the most important points that all the other companies that are out there selling. There's zillions of them selling this nowadays. Yep. Mm-hmm. What's the one thing Mystic River dominates in that category?
You know, it's our experience. Our founder, Daniel Schmidt, who was the original engineer at another high-end tub company prior to coming on and starting, you know, Mystic River. He was the guy who actually invented the river, which the river mode, a lot of people use that, but Mystic River is because of the river. And that was actually due to Joe Rogan wanting an actual movement of the water and the water agitator in the tub for the company he was working with. And he was actually the first to put that into the tub. And it was for an experience to, you know, to elevate or adjust the experience. But what it really had a big part to do is water cleanliness and water flow. And so, you know, when you look at whether it's at home or whether it's in a commercial setting, you know, the biggest thing is going to be, you know, based on the setting that you're in, the weather, the climate, the ambient air, all of those particular things, does the chiller actually work, and is it going to overwork? Because what happens is 90% or more of the chillers that are out there right now that you're buying, regardless of the horsepower, and we'll get into that, they're bought and they're chillers that were originally built for either hydroponics, for aquariums, or for seafood chilling. They weren't meant for tubs, which is why the biggest, you know, break that occurs in a lot of these lower end chillers. And again, when I say lower end, you know, there's a place for all of them. But just because it's 1 horsepower, 1.5 horsepower, doesn't mean it's a great chiller. It's pump.
Yes,
it's
sir.
the pump size. I'm going to show you. This is what a pump looks like in their tubs. This is a normal one that you're seeing from overseas. This thing is as big as my thumb. Okay. And this thing was not meant to pump and constantly flow. And then what happens is, because the pump is so little, it overworks, and then air gets in the lines because the pump's not strong enough. Air gets in the lines, then it causes the chiller to kind of put some type of codes. Usually some code comes on, it shuts down, the pump keeps working, and then the pump blows. And now your chiller is done. And if you got it from overseas, good luck trying to find, one of these, because 90% of the sellers out there are just people that are going on Alibaba, and everyone's getting an inflatable tub from probably one of 3 locations overseas off of Alibaba, or one that you could find in Alibaba. So, and I've had one of those. I had one of those for 2 years, and the tub works fine. The inflatable tub works fine, but the chiller that I had, and I'm in Arizona, so when it's 110 out and it's constantly having to, keep going, I went through 3 pumps in 1 year one time. Wow. And so it's just, that's a big piece of it. So pump size inside there has a large factor on the performance and how long that thing's going to last. And then you got other issues, like in Arizona, we got all the dust. So the dust gets in, and it's just a constant, churn and burn, because these original chillers were not built. So one of the things, that Daniel is just crazy about, and his, I call him like kind of the Einstein of cold plunge technology, is tweaking and finding the right manufacturer, which we found, to build a chiller that actually has the right components within it. And to be honest with you, we haven't found one that has the right pump, which is why we order ours without a pump, and then we install the actual pumps that we put in there to be able to make sure that they're able to withstand the flow rate and all the other things that make things commercial. So you've got this whole other side of it where everybody out there is saying they have a commercial or commercial capable or commercial ready tub. Well, what the hell does that mean? In most cases, they're saying it because either the horsepower is elevated, okay, not going to make something commercial, or they slap a chlorine or a bromide or some type of pH, machine that actually helps it. Now that is important in a commercial setting. You have to have that. You need that, but not just that. You need more, because that's just on the cleanliness side, which is important. But then there's the performance side of it. So, all in all, the chiller is where the cost comes in. So if you're paying more, don't just pay more for a 1 horsepower, or a horse and a half or 2 horsepower. I mean, I've seen them as low as a 1/4 horsepower, and I've seen them advertised as 1 horsepower, but they're only 0.75 or 0.8 horsepower. So, ultimately, the higher the horsepower, the more expensive it's going to be. But that's not the only thing that you want to look at. You want to make sure what's going on with the pumps, what's going on with the flow rate. Because the other thing is, based on a lot of those other chillers, is most of them are just, maybe they have ozone, or they have a 20 micron, or some have a 50 micron filter. Well, if you're not cleaning those filters regularly, then debris gets in it, it catches it, and really it's just catching debris. It's not cleaning anything. So if you want to stay away from chemicals, the thing that we recommend doing is taking maybe like a half a cup or a 1/4 cup of hydrogen peroxide and putting it in there, and that does help kill some of that bacteria. Again, not in a commercial setting. That's more for home to make the water last longer. But you want to make sure that the horsepower is where it needs to be. But one of the other things that is super important, and it's funny because even last year, we're talking almost a year now, because Ursa is coming up here. By the time this launches, I don't know, within a week or 2 or 3 weeks of Ursa, I walked the floor at Ursa and talked to all of the manufacturers that had cold plunges. There was one that even knew what BTU rating was, and the other 2 were like, yeah, that doesn't matter with water. That's more for air conditioning and or heaters. So they had no idea what BTU rating was and the importance of it to be able to maintain water temperature.
All right, we hope you're finding this information useful and helpful. So if you would support our channel by liking this video, subscribing, clicking on the notification bell, and enjoy the rest of the show. Back to the interview.
So again, talking about pumps, again, I showed you what the majority of the pumps that are in a lot of the chillers that you're seeing out there. One, we got to make sure that is big enough, and it's powerful enough to be able to do what it's expected to do in the environment. I mean, if you have one that's in your home and it's, a very small body of water and not a lot of people plunging in it, then, you probably can be okay with that. But if you're talking, a lot of plunges outside, extreme temperatures, in the summer, then you're going to need something a lot more than that, than what you're going to see there. Our system, without getting into kind of the proprietary parts of what we've done, we actually have multiple pumps, more than one, and each pump is fixated to a different component that filters the water 3 different times. So we get a complete turnover of water more times than the majority of the machines that are out there, the cold tubs that are out there. And then we've got, a pump on, just the chiller. Obviously the chiller's pumping, pulling the water. We have our water agitator, our river. Our chiller, it runs at about 1,000 gallons per hour is what it turns. Our agitator, our river concept, is almost 3,600. So you're talking, and then we have an additional one too that also helps. So, our turnover of the water, given whether there's chemicals or not, is one of the highest on the market. And our pump sizes, we have 3 different pumps, and one's a legit pool pump, and then the other 2 are smaller pumps, but they're built for a lot of movement. And so, they've been great, but we've gone through the pains. I mean, how we got to here is that we've sold tubs even as much as maybe 6-8 months ago that we don't have our newest chiller and newest pumps on, and we felt those pain points. So I'd say it's not a matter of it's a matter of when it's going to go out if you have the wrong pump in there.
Hey, so the one point I got out of that was that, man, the pump, and we love the pump. We love the pump, my man. We love getting pumped up.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those simple things that they hear stuff, and when you don't really know and you're not in it the way you are, and there's probably 1 or 2 other companies that I know of that I respect and value a lot that are out there, but the majority of them, you're right, they're just trying to copy, cheat, and steal, and then cut the prices so that they can get as much volume in there, and hey, that works for sure.
It's
But the
funny.
problem is for people who really enjoy the
Yeah.
cold plunge, and especially if you're going to do this from a commercial perspective,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this is where the nightmares, this is where you start losing clients, this is where the maintenance problems start coming in, and it costs you a lot of money. So get that pump right. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, it's funny. I saw an ad for a company who their chiller seems to be really nice, based on what I saw, but it's an inflatable, and they're advertising that you could generate another $100,000 a month in revenue, by just adding a cold plunge. I want to see those numbers. I want to see that, because I'm not saying that. I mean, it's the whole reason why commercial settings are starting to put in there. But there's very few that I think are doing that, and or the volume of members that they're going to have to get to be able to generate hundreds of $1,000s a month. It's pretty nuts. Yeah. So watch what you're saying. You and I've been in the fitness world and at the highest level with the highest volume clubs there are over the years, and it's if they were making that much money, everybody would have one yesterday.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Everybody would have one.
Yeah.
And here's something I hear a lot, whether it's somebody doing this for their home or commercial. They'll turn these units off in the nighttime and then come back in the morning and turn them back on. Tell us a little bit about what nightmares lay ahead for them
Yeah.
when they doing that.
Again, with the wrong pump size. So what happens is you turn it off, trying to save energy or whatever the need may be. And even here in Arizona in the summers, in the winter right now, you could potentially turn it off. But if your pump isn't strong enough and you're not, basically priming the system, when it turns back on, it's trying to pull that water in from the hole. And sometimes, the hoses are round, the connectors from the inflatable tub, let's say if it is an inflatable, to a regular chiller. But in most tubs in general, they're very thin, small little hoses where, again, that's another, if you want to talk about commercial, what's the pipe size so that it can pull more water, circulate the water, and then what's the pump size? So what happens a lot of times is that pump gets, again, that's where the pump blows out because you're turning the water off. You're not priming the system by shuttling water into the system. So when it starts to pull, air gets in the line or air gets in between what it's trying to pull, and then the chiller shuts down, because most will shut down when air gets in there, and it'll give you like a P code or whatnot. And then it keeps trying to do that. In some cases, it'll just not do it, and it'll just keep trying to pull, and that's what blows the pump out. So, ideally, you keep that sucker on, and you're just going to have to deal with the energy costs. And it's not crazy, I mean, there is some there, but it's not crazy. But at the same time, if you're in volatile temperatures, the amount that it's got to work, to constantly change, because, I did that initially too. And in the summer, my water level would be somewhere around 45 to 50 degrees. And if I turned it off for the night, by the time I woke up at 6 a.m., it could be up almost 8 to 10 degrees in the heat, in an inflatable tub. So again, a lot of factors go into it. If you have a non-inflatable, if you have some form of if it's acrylic, does it have insulation? Because a lot of them don't have insulation. So if you don't have pipes that are insulated, that's going to evaporate the heat. The heat's going to get out, and it's going to cause your chiller to work even harder. So are the pipes insulated? What happens? So all of those things play a huge role, and you can't. A lot of times you don't see what's going on underneath it or inside of it. Our tub's nice. We've got panels that come off with a rubber grommet, so that it minimizes the noise. So they're snapped on, and you can pull them off, and you can kind of see what's going on inside to a certain extent.
Oh, that's great. And then here's another huge one that I hear constantly, especially from a commercial setting. And this could again be somebody putting it in a private home as well, but mostly in the commercial setting when you're looking to add a cold plunge, because I'm seeing a lot of people and a lot of facilities start to add these, the filtration. How often, the type of filters, because again, similar to a pool, people are getting in there with lotions and things and hair products and stuff like that. So tell us how important and critical the filtration is going to be in the filters.
Yeah, so most of most of what's out there have basically, they'll say ozone. Ozone doesn't do a whole heck of a lot, to be honest with you. I mean, it'll very, very little, but it works to a certain extent. Most of them have a 20 micron filter, and all that's doing is catching debris. It's all that's really doing. It's not disinfecting if any nasty, whether it's sweat or oils, or God forbid somebody goes to the bathroom in there, or who knows what. And it's a closed system, right? So it's circulating that same water. So, the biggest issue that happens with a lot of times is that filter. They don't clean the filter enough, so then the flow rate drops. So, the one that I had a long time ago, it started, I was getting about 14, 15 gallons per, as it said on the chiller. Now that same chiller, if I hooked it up, I barely get about 4. And a lot of it could be the lines. So then, the sweat and the oils and the shampoos and the detergents, all that stuff clogs those lines. So then it slows the filter. Guess what? When it slows the filtration and the turnover rate, it doesn't get as clean. But guess what happens again? Makes the pump work harder. So now that goes back to that pump, and the pump blows out again. So you've got to, whether it's 20 micron, 50 micron, whatever, you've got to take those filters, and you've got to rinse those filters, quite regularly. Even with me, I do it 1 to 2 times a day. I've got a couple of family members that do it, so maybe about 5-6 plunges per day is probably what mine sees. And I've got to clean that thing off every week, and it's outside in the dust too. So, that's the other piece.
Yeah, so if it's in a big commercial setting and, let's say you're getting maybe 30, 40 people in there a day, how often would you need to do that on one of your tubs? Like the Odin, for example.
Well, so let me separate. Our Odin and Blitzen in effect are the same tub. They're just fit and finish is different. So the inner workings of it, those two do not have a chlorine option. The Athena, which is our new one that's, coming out, we've got our first one being delivered. We've tested it. We've got it all, fixed and not fixed, but, completed, and feel really good about it. That one's going into the first commercial club here by the end of this month. and that's the one that's got the chlorine and the pH and the skimmer and everything, the hole sizes and everything that you need to be able to actually truly be a commercial tub. Odin and Blitzen, though, compared to 99.9% of the tubs that are out there, have a 9 point of filtration. So literally, there's 9 different points with a spin down in the 20 micron and the ozone, and then we have charcoal, and we've got little cloth balls, and we have all of these different things that are able to filter that water way, way better than anything else that's really out there. Plus our pumps, and then again our agitator and our chiller is able to turn the water a lot more times per hour. So again, it keeps it cleaner. So, those are the big differences, on that side. But regardless of, take chlorine out of this, depending on your place, most locations are, if they don't have chlorine, they're having to dump that water probably every 1 to 2 days, if not more. Just depends on, what happens. The other thing that's nice about Mystic is that we believe, I don't know many that have this. There may be, so I may be wrong right now, but I would say the majority of them do not have a pump dedicated to pull the water out. So you have to either put a sump pump in, or you got to let gravity take its course, which takes a long time. You're in a commercial setting, you don't want to do that. So ours actually has one where you just turn the switch on, pulls it out, evacuates it to wherever you want, and then you fill it back up. We're also stainless steel, so some people will say pro and cons, but the ability to maintain water temperature, the way we insulate it with our chiller and pump and flow, and the stainless steel makes it a heck of a lot easier to maintain versus an acrylic or anything else that's out there.
Yeah, because that's the majority I see are more that acrylic build versus the stainless steel that y'all
Yep.
go through, which to me, just when you're in, I've been in both, and the experience that I get being in stainless steel compared
Mhm.
to the acrylic version, I mean, they're both good and they're both got the
Yeah.
temperature and stuff, but it's just a whole nother level of an
Yeah.
experience and then a feel as well too. And then one thing coming back, that from a commercial perspective as well too, durability is absolutely
Mhm.
going to be one of the most critical issues. What makes y'all so much more durable than all the others I've seen out there on the market? Because that seems to be the number one thing I hear consistently
Yeah.
across the board is the pumps going out, filters this. It's always something. And there are little things that they don't think about that you're addressing today.
Mhm.
But from a durability issue, what makes the Mystic River tubs so much more durable? Because y'all dominated in that area.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, a lot of what I just saw. I mean, the pumps that we use and the water agitation that we use, and we have a one and a all of ours come standard 1.5 horsepower chiller, 11,500 BTU rating. We get anywhere from, depending on the tub, we have certain size tub. We have an Apollo version, and then also our inflatable, the Titan Pro.
Yeah.
Those do have a bit of a smaller piping, so the flow isn't going to be as much, even though the pumps are everything's the same. It just they don't pull as much. Where the Athena, Odin, and Blitzen have they're a bigger, durable pipe. Some is flexible, but a lot of it is like plumbing's pipe. Where some of these other things are really, really tiny, which is why they clog a little bit easier as well. So a lot of what I've said already is the reason why we've built it. And like I said, I mean, Daniel is constantly tinkering to figure out how to make the experience and make it a more durable machine for the long haul, and it's why we're a bit more expensive. I mean, we're a bit more custom built, with the different woods. We have an HDPE coming out. We've got some different things and we are looking at a tub that isn't it's stainless on the outside, but the insert is different, because we get fit and finish. But if you want the white acrylic, you're going to go with the white acrylic, and it's a great
Yeah.
machine. If you want, something a bit more custom with the wood and our look and feel, then you're going to come with us or some version of us that's out there.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So now another one that I keep hearing about is when people go to get into this is the consistency of the temperature when you're getting people in and out of it. Let's say a lot of people going from the saunas and into the cold plunges. So you get a lot of that, where you get a volume of people in a commercial setting
Yep.
in and out of it. What have y'all done to be so successful at maintaining the temperature of the water with a lot of people and volume in and
Yep.
out of it?
Yep. And that's the biggest thing. I noticed that when I originally bought my first one, which was kind of like an Alibaba buy, so to speak. And, that temperature, I would go in it at, let's call it 47. By the time I was done, it was at 50. Because I did a lot of contrast where I was going from hot water, more of a whirlpool than sauna, which makes it even worse because you're bringing in hot water and then bringing it in versus, just the body temperature and sweat. And so, both increase the heat, but that's the BTU rating. So the BTU rating is key to be able to maintain. And I would say that, again, I'm guessing a bit here, but I would bet that 80 to 90% of the chillers that are out there that people are selling have a BTU rating less than 5,000. If they don't know what BTU rating is and they don't give you some BS answer, I would argue it's below 5,000, which isn't going to, you're not going to maintain water temperature. I walked into a facility that just put three different chillers in, and they got high horsepower. One, they're doing 2 units, 2 tubs are working off a 2 horsepower chiller, and then 1 unit is working off a 1 horsepower chiller. He didn't know what the BTU rating is. I asked him what temperature he's keeping it at. They're keeping the temperature at 37. I go, 37? I go, you're just going to scare 90% of the people. The first time they go in, they're never going to come back at 37. And it doesn't need to be that cold, and so I've been doing it for literally 15 years. And the coldest I keep mine is sometimes like 40, 44, somewhere in there. And it's frigid, and so I'm not about the ego. I'm about the effectiveness of the longevity, not even the recovery. Let's not even get into I hate the term recovery. But beyond that, with this is that BTU rating. So I know there's 2 chillers out there that I know that have a higher 15,000 is the most that I've seen. I don't know if you need that much, because we've seen amazing. I mean, we did an outdoor fest in the mountains, but when it was hot in California, with a sauna, and people were doing a regular dry sauna, not an infrared. And we had 30, 40, 50 people going back and forth. And that water temperature never adjusted more than about a degree in ours. So, the flow rate, the agitation, the chilling flow rate as well. And then obviously the BTU rating are going to be the big things that are going to, that you need to know and you need to make sure that you get and have, so that your water temperature stays. Because, the nice thing, again, I'm going to, brag about the river concept, is because everyone says the study. And if everybody says the study, then everyone will either quote either Dr. Susanna Soberg, or Huberman that had Soberg on, and then he's had Rhonda Patrick on. And now, I just had a text conversation with somebody I did a podcast on who I love and adore, and she really has opened my eyes to find out more information. But Kristen Holmes from Whoop, and she just said that they found out, and we're tangenting here a bit, but I think it's important. He said people who were in better shape, if they plunged more than 2 times a week, it actually decreased recovery measures. Decreased for people who are in shape. People who are not in shape, they can do it as much as they want. So I got to dive into that a little bit. But regardless, everybody is saying this, and the majority of it, of the studies that were done, take Wim Hof out of this, because those, I don't know if those are studies, they're experiences, and I'm not going to discredit what he does in that. But it's around 40, let's call it 47, 48 to 50. That's kind of the sweet spot that you'll get if you're looking for wellness benefits.
So, Jason, here's something I'm really curious about: cold water immersion, like getting in and diving in, going below the deck.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about why the Mystic River tubs are so superior to that, because I keep seeing so many other ones where it's cold plunging, but I don't hear the cold water complete immersion.
Yep.
So, take it. Tell us about it.
Size and the size in commercial, you shouldn't sacrifice the size. I mean, there's always going to be the rooms and different things, but you're seeing a lot of people because they want to put it inside their house. I get it. And so you're seeing smaller and smaller tubs, but it's really, the whole thing is an uncomfortable situation, right? I mean, going through it. And if you're all tight and crammed in there, it also makes it uncomfortable, but it also, when you talk about the longer you do it, the better cold adapted that you get, you start to develop a lot more thermal barriers when you're in a very small, tight tub. Now, there's research out that says you need to, be below your neck, and the water needs to be, at neck to be able to impact the vagus nerve. I've heard other things say that it's just, you could splash your face, or just going in with your lower body. There's the dunking of the head. There's probably for another, podcast that we can talk about some of that stuff and go into it. But at the end of the day, being in a tub, if you've never been in one that has room where your shoulders aren't touching the sides, you can straighten your legs out. So that's why some people like to do it, and you're seeing a lot more tubs that are more vertical, the barrel tubs, and I've seen others that are going, so you could actually stand in it. All those things are important. So the nice thing, again, with ours, we have 3 different tub sizes. So the tub actually that we currently have for our inflatable is actually the same size tub that is in our Odin and Blitzen. So it's big. I've got one of those in my backyard. My shoulders, I mean, I could straighten my legs out. I'm 6 foot, about 230. So, I'm a average, I would say above average size guy, and I fit in there very, very comfortably. And the other one I had was the normal, kind of circular oval, inflatable. So, I think the size of the tub to minimize being cramped and crouched is huge. Now, again, ours, because of the water agitation, we need that so that you're getting that water agitation. And one of the things that I didn't talk about with the agitation is that the first time I ever went in our tub, I jumped out of it at 2 minutes, like literally, like I can't do it anymore. And that was only about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. And I'd been plunging for a long time at anywhere from 45 to 50 for 3 to 5 minutes, very consistently. The temperature of our tub was 59 degrees when I jumped out of it. But the water agitation pushing at my chest and pushing around my body, because I'm not all like secluded and tight and touching the sides. It was a completely different experience. Now, in a commercial setting, what's amazing is that, let's say you only have enough money budgeted for 1 tub or maybe 2 tubs. Well, right now, if you're like the one location I went to had it at 37, that's not going to help introduce people to it. So what's nice is that you can have a tub set at, let's call it 50 or 55 degrees for a beginner. And then if you want, you turn, because the agitator can be turned on and off. So you can turn the agitator on, it starts the flow, and that person who's been doing it for a long time, who wants it maybe at 45 degrees, you're not, again, it's not at 45, but it feels much like 45. Just like if you're in an ocean and the water, it always feels colder because the water's moving on you. So, that's a really, the agitation and the size of the tub makes the experience, especially if you're trying to calm yourself down and try to relax. So, one of our tubs, like on our fully commercial Athena, that tub, I believe it is 260 gallon tub. So it's a big tub. I mean, the tub itself is 68 degrees in length, 28 width, and 28 depth. So it's a big, long tub. Our smallest one is our Apollo. And if you look online, at our website, the guy that's actually in the Apollo, that guy is 6'6", almost 3 something. And he's in there and he's kind of tight in there, but that was the guy that we had to put it in that day. So he's in there and it could fit, but you could easily get a normal size. That's a big person. So, our Athena and even the Odin Blitzen, you could probably get away with 2 people potentially in them, smaller, regular size people. We only have a 1 slanted back. So all ours are stainless with a slanted back. So it's, again, a little bit more comfortable than, say, that rounded back as well. And then our our inflatable is also a slanted back as well. So it's just a bit more comfortable angle to be able to kind of sit in. And I just think it's important the more experienced the person is, that that you can be comfortable within that space.
Well, and you just said something that really made me think and pause for a second. Our population right now is only getting bigger. So you just made a great argument, and especially from a commercial setting, we want larger people coming into our facilities that may not typically come in, because this is going to only benefit them even more.
Yeah.
But the fact that they could actually fit into it, because you just made a super great point. The majority of the other ones I've seen are so small that most people can't fit into them, and it's very limited who can.
Yep.
So it's almost designed specifically to cut out the larger population, which is, again, the
Yeah.
largest population
And
of potential members and clients for a business.
yeah, and again, according to Kristen Holmes's research that she's done with Whoop, is saying that the more out of shape, the more times you could do it, the better off you actually are. The other piece that I want to key in on in a commercial setting, real quick too, is if you're running multiple tubs off of one chiller, again, make sure the pump size is there, because it's going to work even harder. It's going to be really hard to maintain chemicals in two tubs, because it doesn't know how, if it has chemicals, it doesn't know it's pulling from two different areas. So it's, that's going to be really hard. But more importantly, the single person tub, because a lot of the bigger clubs are going after big hot tubs, and they're converting big hot tubs. And I think there's a positive and a negative to that. Some people will love it because it's done in a group. Other people want it to be a bit more intimate into themselves. I know that in some of those clubs that had like maybe 3 or 4 people could fit in it, when there's 4 people in it, you're tight and it's awkward, and you're like, kind of doing that. But the biggest thing about the chillers is that you want an individual chiller and pump for each unit, because, one, it will maintain the cleanliness better. 2, if one goes down, they all don't go down. If you've got one chiller working multiple tubs, or one big tub, and it goes down, or something happens to the chiller, all tubs are down. So, we have a modular setup that we did for a couple of different locations where it's just the tub, so it's a smaller footprint, but we have a pump room, and each one of those tubs, the 4 tubs, has a different chiller and piping attached to it. And the other nice thing is you can keep them at different temperatures, so that, again, you could, accommodate, beginners to, more advanced.
Yes, sir. Well, it's interesting. Growing up in the Smoky Mountains, we go whitewater rafting, we go up in the mountain stream. So, two things that you just reminded me of growing up as a kid, and even now I go take my son up there, and we go, is that you're right. That cold water rushing over you, it's when I check the temperature, it's like 60, 65 degrees, but rushing over me feels like it's freezing
Yeah.
cold.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is when we go whitewater rafting, first thing that most people do when they've been rafting and they jump into the water, and women included now, they all go number one. So
Uh,
when I'm thinking group setting,
yeah.
that may be something. It's just difficult to control. I mean,
Yep.
you're shocked, and
Yep.
it's
Yep.
like a reaction
Hmm.
happening there. And then also what you said about the filtration earlier and the pumps and things like that, why it becomes even more critical, because it's not something you're going to be able to control. And sometimes people can't control that happening.
Yeah.
But wow, just the cleanliness, and that right there was a super critical piece that you just mentioned. So thanks for sharing that. So
Yeah, and the last thing I would say is going back to durability. 2 things I want to say on that. We've been fortunate enough; we've got some good relationships with, the band Stick Figure, the band Iration, the band Slightly Stupid, Pepper. These reggae rock-ish, bands, and Stupid and Stick actually have an Odin, our Odin, that they bring in and out for their shows. Like, it's in the semi, they bring it out, they drop it down, they fill it up, and and then they use it. So the durability of it coming on and off, and being on the road, we haven't had, any issues whatsoever with it, which has been fantastic. Again, they understand how to take care of it. So the other thing is in our wood. Yeah, a lot of it is based off of wood, but we've got tubs that we've sent to Costa Rica, to Kauai, in some crazy humid, rainy, and what we treat the wood with it's exactly the same as what like speedboats and ski boats are treated with. So it's that, it's really, really coated. So it holds up, and, again, wood's wood. If it's in Arizona, you're not in a covered space and it's getting beat on, it's gonna wear at some point, but
Right.
the longevity is very, very long, along with the stainless steel frames and the tubs. And so it's, they've been great. We've been very, very, I don't want to say fortunate, because everything was purpose built. And that's what,
Yes, sir.
Daniel, our founder, said, is everything that we do at Mystic is purpose built for this. And, he's been at it at a high level for a long, long time. I've been at it more from the experiential standpoint, and, working in, the big health clubs and operationalizing, because that's another aspect. As we work together on those things to be able to help people actually truly build a business off of it, given the model that they want to go after, because there's definitely several models to be able to do that.
Well, and you know what? This is kind of getting into that category like the cryo chambers. I've learned so much about that just in the last year. You know, the the electrical requirements, the build out requirements, there's the monthly maintenance requirements. There's so much more hidden costs than just the cryo chamber in itself. And it's
Besides the
kind of getting that
cost.
way. There's where the
Yeah.
cold plunge and the cold water immersion concept and business, as it's going to grow, and I totally believe it's going to continue to boom and grow greatly. It's just from them understanding what you've shared with us uh, in this message here. It's just been amazingly helpful, because to me the wood is just beautiful looking, But I also understand some people want another option, so I totally support that, and nothing but love for that as well too. But it looks beautiful, but the durability issue you covered on that one, that was the one thing that some people may question when they see it. But just, and also too, if in all these environments where they're doing more community type stuff, or you're in a commercial setting, or even in a home as well, it just looks so much more natural. It feels so much more natural. It looks so beautiful. So that was one thing I liked. I like stuff that looks more natural and blends in with the community, and has that feel
Yeah.
good piece to it. So that
Yeah.
was just my personal choice. But anyway,
Appreciate, and again, that's what it is. But at the end of the day, make the right decisions, and don't, and the companies are smart. They get it, so a lot of them are putting them in the ground. That's great. Different experience, but at the end of the day, make sure that your chiller, your pumps, your BTU rating, the horsepower is important as well. I'm not saying it's not, but I would rather have a lower horsepower and a higher BTU rating and the right pump, and you'll probably go a little bit further than the other way around in a commercial setting to maintain the temperature. And then obviously, the chlorine and the pH detector to be able to make that easy. And that's what ours is. It's very similar. It detects it, it drip feeds, it adjusts, so there's very little maintenance on your end, outside of changing the water, which you will have to do.
yeah. Oh, that's excellent. And hey, I just hope so much today, having the Iceman himself, Jason Stella from Mystic River here today, you got so much value out of this, and it helps your business. Like I said, we're both here to educate, support, and help. You make your own decisions,
Mm-hmm.
but just realize you're talking to two people who really care a lot about making sure that you got something that's consistently working, your members consistently have going in there, but also realize there's a lot more to learn about this as I'm learning, to help you be successful long term and help people to have a great experience consistently every time they show up. So,
Yep.
last word, Jason. Man, thank you so much. I'm grateful to have you here today. Last word. What you got to say before you head out, Iceman?
I'm a true believer, and I always knew it made me feel good, and and I've been tracking it, and there's more and more science and more stuff getting out there. I think it is going to be something that is seen as a way of life, for people who will introduce themselves to the discomfort and do it. I hope and pray that people are smart about it, and maybe that's for another whole nother episode where we can talk about how to integrate it into a proper program, and when you should and should not do it, and what are you doing it for. So at the end of the day, let's get the right plunges in the right places, and then let's go back to educating, which we know becomes something that's potentially difficult in some place. Sometimes some people want it, some people just want to do their own thing.
Hey, Victor V Man and the V Cast, Jason
Thank you.
Stella, the Iceman, Mystic River,
Yeah.
saying thank you so much, man. On.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you, V.